What is up, all you GBA type fans? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys my Week 8 team builder for Mono 2 Eyes and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Now this would be kind of an abridged version. As you can see, I will not be pulling up the graphic I usually make, solely because I just kind of move on from that for this week. I will go back to it as we go into our conference rematches. Just for this week, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to see Mono's team, which consists of Jirachi, Buzzwole, Zygarde, Sneck, Roserade, Mantine, Torrent Greninja, Florges, Miltank, Rhydon, Salazzle, and of course, Bisharp. This team is very threatening. If I was to rank it, I'd say Salazzle puts a huge dent into my team, namely a sub Nasty Plot set or just a outright Nasty Plot set with dual stab and probably hidden power ground. Buzzwole, if it's banded or adamant, offensive, is going to put a lot of pressure on my physical walls, namely because really only Vaporeon wants to take hits, or even Nidoqueen wants to take hits from an adamant Buzzwole. Jirachi, just like we saw last week with Cresselia, a Calm Mind set, potentially with just two types of coverage. Sub Calm Mind could really have a large impact on my team. Otherwise, Torrent Greninja could also be very fast, again, with the fact that it can pivot. Water and dark coverage is pretty solid versus my team. It can, U-turn against my passive walls while coming in and doing big damage or threatening other things out, such as like Thundurus or Zygarde. Overall, it seems very scary. He does have a lot of defensive options. In this case, Roserade could, stop Thundurus from just spamming T-Bolt. Mantine can stop things such as Darmanitan and Hitmonlee. He does have Florges, which may not be brought this week, namely because I do have Celesteela, Thundurus, and Nidoqueen. Three things that do have a very easier time handling the outright Fairy type. Miltank has always been a problem for me. I know that when John had it, he made me suffer, is probably the word I'm going to describe that encounter. But Miltank has always been a great defensive wall. In this case, while it can't take on Hitmonlee, can take on Darmanitan with Thick Fat, and it also could take on Zygarde in some cases, Milk Drink, even Body Slam. Rhydon, don't see it being brought, and of course Bisharp, as we saw with Crawdon earlier this season, dark type coverage is very good against my team. Shiftry is the only thing that really wants to take a lot of dark type moves, and with that in mind, I kind of have to prep for this. Got to be a little bit more aggressive against Mono. He is a fantastic coach. Great person. I actually have hung out with him a few times now in person. He and I live very close to one another. But overall, I know this is going to be a good match. I think that I do have a team that can give him a run for his money, if not win. So hopefully, let's see how I can do. I can pull that off, essentially. We're going to start off with my team, and we're going to have my team this week is going to consist of Celesteela, Thundurus, Nidoqueen, Vaporeon, Porygon 2, and Hitmonlee. Bringing back Hitmonlee this week. We're going to start off now with Celesteela. This is going to be an Adamant Autotomized Citrus Berry set. It's going to consist of Earthquake, Stone Edge, Acro, and Autotomize. The Acrobatics is there because if I pop the Citrus Berry, in any case, whether it's against a Roserade or it's against Salazzle, in case it goes for Fire Blast, I can. The 48 Spadef EVs put a Fire Blast just not at +2 from a Salazzle in my favor in terms of the roll. It can then allow me to go for an Acrobatics or even an Autotomize to outpace it. Autotomize is going to, of course, have its base power doubled. Earthquake, of course, also can Super Blast a Salazzle. The idea here for this Celesteela is I'm going to possibly try an Autotomize versus certain things, such as a Buzzwole locked into a move in case it's choiced, maybe a Zygarde locked into Outrage, any type of Roserade set, assuming it's not like Specs with HP Fire. Mantine can, Mantine and Miltank I'm going to have to do some chip damage on in order to ensure that I can knock them out effectively, especially if they are max physically defensive. But that's what I have Stone Edge for the Mantine. At +2, I know that I will be outpacing a modest max speed Scarf Roserade. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this Celesteela set. Of course, Adamant provides me the most amount of attacking power to deal the most amount of damage. Next up, we have a Thunderous. This is going to be a Leftovers Thunderous. Pretty standard, you know, max speed, max special attack. Thunderbolt HP Ice with Dual Dance. Of course, the idea here is if he does bring Mantine, I can bring a Thunderous pretty much on a Roost, on a Defog, and then I can then go from there. I can Nasty Plot or Agility accordingly. Could also do the same thing against, again, Buzzwole, assuming it's not choiced. I can go ahead and, if he, well, I guess if he is locked, and he head over Superpower on a switch, bring in Thunderous, allow it to then go ahead and, of course, you know, start boosting up in front of whatever's in front of it, whatever makes sense at that time. Miltank I could also set up in front of, because you can't paralyze an electric type. Granted, though, Body Slam is going to do a good chunk of damage. And, of course, if Roserade is a bulkier version as compared to an offensive version, I can also set up on that too. This outspeeds Rachi because, of course, base 101 as compared to base 100. Thunderous this week is going to be a special setup type deal, as it has been for most every other week. Next up, we have a Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to be a black sludge set. Of course, it is my only rock setter. It's going to have Earth Power, Bolt Beam, Stealth Rock. The HP is there to ensure the HP mixed with the Spadef investment. Obviously, we have full Spadef. Allows me to take on modest Technician boosted extra sensories from a Roserade. This allows me to give myself the best chance to live those type of hits, as well as take hits from a slurry of other things on his team, including Mantine, Florges, even the Miltank. Nidoqueen this week is going to play a very large role, solely because it just has a good proper coverage to hit most of the things on his team that aren't Buzzwole, but otherwise Thunderbolt can hit things like Greninja, Mantine, Earth Power hits things like Jirachi and Salazzle, even Bisharp, and of course Ice Beam hits Rhydon and of course Zygarde's neck. Stealth Rock, like I said, obligatory. It's what I use every week to set up Stealth Rock. The 20 speed allows me to outspeed a speed creeping Florges, and I guess the attack is just there to deal the most amount of damage based on the investment I've left over on most of his team. So, of course, you know, Nidoqueen is very straightforward. Next up, we have Vaporeon. Vaporeon is going to be max. This thing is going to take a literal beating like it did last week against Envy. Max, Ice Beam, Wish Protect, Heal Bell. Heal Bell is there for utility. Wish Protect is there to heal myself up as well as other members of the team. And, of course, the Ice Beam is there. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why do I not have Stab? And the idea here is that I chose Ice Beam over Scald for, well, two reasons. Mono's been known to run a very special defensive, if not a very high HP, sub-Zygarde set. He's also known to do it for Buzzwole as well. If the Zygarde is a plus special defense nature with things like Coil, things like D-Dance, and Buzzwole is a bulk up set or just a sub set with coverage, you know, I think it's Dual Stab plus Ice Punch, or even, yeah, I think that actually makes sense. Hits the majority of my team. He can even run Earthquake over one of his stab options to just with like leftovers to, you know, take place of the Bug Stab. What I'm saying is that Ice Beam allows me to stop Zygarde from D-Dancing in my face, because if he invests enough for a Scald so it doesn't break a sub on Zygarde, I can't break subs, and that becomes a problem because then that just blows back my entire team. I have very little coverage for the combination of Salazzle, Zygarde, and the combination of Buzzwole and Greninja. Overall, I have to kind of prep with those heavily in mind. This is invested in defense and HP specifically so that I can take 3 Jolly Wood Hammers or Thunder Punches from a non-choice banded Buzzwole. If he's things like Life Orb, or if he's leftovers, if even he's bulk up, I do have the potential to take the hits. Can't roar it out. Kind of what Vaporeon has been suffering is 4 move slot syndrome. I have to fit what allows it to live, but I lose some utility in terms of options to handle different situations. I guess it's kind of just the case with things like Gardevoir, Vaporeon, Skarmory, you know, name any wall, and it probably suffers 4 move slot syndrome at some point. But again, just max defense for this Vaporeon this week. Next up, we have Porygon 2. This is going to be namely another defensive option. This is going to be something that allows me to take on Salazzle a little bit better. Salazzle, I realized that if it's at +2, Fire Blast can pretty much knock out most everything. If it's a sub-disable set, if it's a sub-taunt set, it prevents me from recovering, and it will allow him to then go for nasty pots or just otherwise go for a combination of Sludge Wave or Fire Blast. What I can do is this investment allows me to take those hits. It allows me to live a +2 Fire Blast. I could take max about 76%, but this is an optimized set. The defense, if I had swapped the defense in the SPDEF or given it a plus SPDEF nature, it really wouldn't have made a difference in terms of the roll. It still would do upwards about 65% regardless. But in this case, the 20 special attack investment allows me to pretty much one-shot a Salazzle with HP Ground. Ice Beam is there, of course, for Zygarde's neck, as I've been saying. It also allows me to hit things like Rhydon. The HP Ground also provides me coverage to things like Bisharp and Jirachi. Jirachi is not a Combine version. If it is not a fully invested HP version, I think I have the potential to break subs with HP Ground. However, if it does end up being Combine, this thing becomes a setup fodder machine. But Toxic we have there to hit things like Buzzwole on a switch, Zygarde on a switch, anything he wants to bring in, that even things like Miltank or Mantine that he may want to bring in on a switch. Porygon 2 this week is going to be more of a special sponge, as it has been on most weeks. Finally, we have a meme. Oh man, Hitmonlee this week. Hitmonlee this week is going to be very important. Now, you look at the remainder of my roster, you think, well, you don't bring Zygarde's Doggo, even though it can do a lot of damage with the 1,000 Arrows. Well, unfortunately, Zygarde Doggo, nor do any of the Zygardes get any sort of bird coverage, so I can't hit Buzzwole for anything. Because, you know, obviously it resists ground, and if I'm locked into Outrage, he does have things like Jirachi, he does have Miltank and Florges, and even Rhydon to, of course, sponge all those dragon hits. Even Bisharp, to an extent, can take an Outrage, even if it's not Choice Banded. Overall, Zygarde didn't really make sense this week, so I kind of was thinking a little bit out of the box. Thinking to myself, well, looking at move pools, I'm looking up and down my roster, I'm thinking, okay, well, what's too passive? What doesn't necessarily make sense? I can bring Shiftry, but there are a few things on the team that he can take advantage of in terms of Shiftry. It invites in Buzzwole, invites in Zygarde, invites in Salazzle. Not really going to be worth it this week. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, Hitmonlee with Mach Punch threatens out Bisharp entirely. It threatens out Greninja entirely, especially if I am max investment in terms of attack. And he is, of course, not the fighting reducing berry. Chople, sorry. So I'm looking, and I think, oh, okay, well, I could do Bounce, and I could put on High Jump Kick, which, of course, would allow me to hit pretty much anything. Even Mantine's not going to really enjoy taking a High Jump Kick, and if he Roosts, that allows me to go into Thundurus. But then I see Bounce, and I think to myself, I know it's a base 85, accuracy move, same thing with High Jump Kick, which is base 90. If the combination of High Jump Kick plus Bounce bops a non-Koba Buzzwole, Koba Berry, of course, Buzzwole. In addition, this also outspeeds Jolly Buzzwole. That allows me that if I bring this in to threaten out something like Bisharp or Greninja or even something like a Miltank and he goes into Buzzwole, all I gotta do is go for High Jump Kick and then follow it up with a Bounce with the Power Herb will allow me to knock out a non-full HP, non-Koba Berry Buzzwole. If he's choiced, if he's a sub version with leftovers, I will knock him out. Then I'll put a huge problem out of my way. I hope Hitmonlee actually works this week. I was actually kind of excited to build this specific set. We thought about HP Flying on something like Zygarde. We thought about HP Flying on this. We thought about it on a lot of different things, and it just didn't make sense to hit Buzzwole. So I had to think, and in this case, we have a meme, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. That's going to be my team. Again, sorry if this was a little bit shortened. We'll attempt to bring back the way I was doing it later on in the season, but this week didn't really make sense. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock for my match with Mono. See you guys then.